Are you here to confirm that Daredevil is responsible for this, Detective?
There is no proof that Daredevil even exists.
He can hear it before it makes a sound. He can sense it before it happens.
Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University. I am your professor, Mario Rivera, and joining me is the marvelous doctoral student, Clone MC, who has a bachelor's in the MCU, a master's in the multiverse, and going for their dissertation in Marvel Studies. Sly, how you doing?
I am doing something. I'm here to talk to you about a film. It's a film. That's about how I'm feeling.
Film,
right
not
now.
a TV show. Film, not a TV show.
Film.
They have hour and 30 minutes to tell us a whole story about multiple characters. Do they succeed? We'll find out.
Up to you.
Which, of course, Sly is alluding to the fact that this week's episode, we are talking about 2003's Daredevil, which, of course, is starting with our first class, history class, directed by Mark Steven Johnson, who I actually wanted to point out his career. He also written the film, which usually is either a good or bad situation, depending on the director. I'm going to say not so good. But this is the surprising thing. He's written quite a few films that I'm shocked by, absolutely flabbergasted by. And starting with his early career, which, of course, he wrote both Grumpy Old Men films, the Grumpy Old Men and Grumpier Old Men with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
Right.
But then he moved on to a movie called Simon Birch. Have you ever seen a movie called Simon Birch?
No.
Simon Birch is this childhood film about this little boy who hits a baseball and accidentally kills his mother. It's fantastic. It's wonderful.
Jesus Christ.
Jim Carrey's in it, but he's the narrator. He's the narrator in the beginning and then to the end.
What?
It's so good. He tells the story of Simon Birch. I enjoy this movie so much. But not only that, have you ever heard of a movie called Jack Frost with Michael Keaton?
Oh my God! Really?
He wrote the story and the screenplay for Jack Frost. Which,
good for him,
again,
man.
One of those movies where I love. It's about a dead father coming back to life as a snowman. And shout out to him. Shout out to him. After that, of course, he worked on both Daredevil and Elektra. He wrote Elektra. I'm not sure if he directed. I'll take a look at that later. And then the last thing, and obviously he did do another superhero movie, but we'll talk about that when it comes to it. But he also did Christopher Robin. He did the story for Christopher Robin. That was a couple years ago. And he's still working today. He's still got some stuff going on. But I wanted to bring up all of those like early 90s like kid films / like adult I just thought that was such an interesting
all over the place
to get to this movie, which is like an early aughts like powerhouse, which I'm very excited about. Let me go back to my document. And yes, written by Mark Steven Johnson. Studio is Fox Studios. This is their second attempt at doing superheroes after the release of X-Men. The budget for this movie astronomically grew after last year's success, of course, of Spider-Man, which was one of our episodes that is recorded. I almost forgot we did Spider-Man.
We did. We watched Spider-Man.
Yes, we did. And of course, this film stars the wonderful actor known as Oscar-winning actor Ben Affleck, Jennifer Gardner, Colin Farrell, Michael Clark Duncan, and so many others. Of course, Jon Favreau is also a part of this film, which is a very fun recollection. I was like, oh yeah, you're also in this movie. I totally forgot about that as well. And a couple
Foggy.
Yeah, Foggy. That was the Foggy Nelson.
Foggy Big Happy broke my brain. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I love it. Which, of course, yeah, no, that's so fun because there's some repeating stuff there. So that's why if those characters ever meet, I will laugh. I
would lose my mind.
That would be so funny.
I need Jon Favreau playing both characters.
Hey, who knows in the multiverse, right? That would
Please,
be.
Marvel, give it to us.
Please bring back also Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock. I would love that as well. Of course. Yeah, starts that's where you can stream it. You can stream it everywhere because we tried to rent it before it was available on Amazon, and we didn't make that a requirement. So we rented it, so we had to pay for it. Was it worth it? Hey, you're here.
You're here.
That's all that
If
matters.
one person listens to it, it was worth it.
It was worth it. It was worth the $3.99 to watch it in HD. Of course.
Content.
If you could please, Sly, read the plot of this film.
All right. This plot is a wild one. Let's get into it. So, fate deals young orphan Matt Murdock a strange hand when he is doused with hazardous waste. The accident leaves Matt blind, but also gives him a heightened radar sense that allows him to, quote, see far better than any man. Years later, Murdoch has grown into a man and becomes a respected criminal attorney. I don't know if he's respected, but okay. But after he's done his day job, also in quotes, Matt takes on the secret identity as the man without fear, Daredevil, the masked avenger that patrols the neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen and New York City to combat the injustice that he cannot tackle in the courtroom.
Fantastic. I did love that in the middle, like the opening monologue from Ben Affleck, he says like the neighborhood now known as Clinton was originally called Hell's Kitchen, which is now a totally gentrified area, but nevertheless, I'm glad that they at least acknowledged it in this film. Of course, the comic book characters that are best represented in this film are Daredevil, Matt Murdock himself, Elektra Natchios, as we learn in this film, and they make a point to say it a few times. Bullseye, Kingpin, Wesley, which I was talked about, being very shocked about because I know him prominently from the TV show. I don't remember him as a character in the comics, but here he is. And of course, as you just reminded me, Foggy Nelson obviously is in this. Ben Urich is another character played by Michael Pants, who was famously in The Matrix and Goonies, one of my favorite movies. And he plays Ben Urich, which I'm sad that I've not seen this character in other places yet because I love Ben Urich in the comic books. So I really would love someone, or I would just love for him to come back as Ben Urich in another total different thing. That'd be cool. But those are pretty much, all the major characters announced. There is a mystery character in the movie that I'm saving for trivia, so that way I could surprise Sly with it. But until then, of course, we're going to go ahead and go into our next class, our Stanley Seminar, where we actually talk about our thoughts about the film. And Sly, we're going to start with you. What did you think of 2003's Daredevil?
I have many overarching thoughts. So in general, this movie's dialogue was few and far between, but when there was dialogue, most of the time it was great. There was a heavy tone of ableism in the second act, and I was why? What? And the racist old lady. We'll talk about the racist.
Oh my
old lady
god,
later,
yeah.
But oh my god. But in general, there wasn't a lot of dialogue in this movie, and I noticed that because I watched the first. Obviously, I have captions on because I'm deaf, but also I wanted to see how decent the audio description was for it. And so I turned that on to rely on my residual hearing to listen to the audio description, and I realized half the movie is just audio description and not dialogue. And I was like, they don't talk a lot here. So that was a choice. Of course, the plot of this movie is a plot. It's very similar to the first two seasons of the show, just condensed, right? We skip right to him being full-blown Daredevil, so we don't get the awkward learning, except for the training montage, right? Which I was fine with. I was like, we don't need to, we could just jump into this. This is not a good movie. I'll say that much. This is not a good movie. But there's some fucking gems in here.
And that's the best way that I can absolutely describe it too. There's some real good gems in here, specifically when it has anything to deal with Bullseye. Whenever Bullseye's on screen, the movie lights up. And I remember people absolutely hating this back in the day because, you know, they wanted him to have the stupid costume that he's all known for, but which he mentions in this film. But man, if you watch it now, just as a relic of the time and place, and just as a love letter from Colin Farrell, it's absolutely like delicious and wonderful. Everything he does, including little actions, little face ticks, just like
The physical comedy of it was
Yes.
incredible.
I'm absolutely convinced that he's just high the whole movie.
I would not be surprised.
It's just the way that he's like,
Good for him.
and then you mentioned the airplane scene, like him just withering and wiling around, like wanting her to shut up, and the way that he does it is just so funny. But yeah, no, to talk more about the movie specifically, it definitely is heavily in its place in time, where it is a movie that is definitely completely made from the success of all the previous ones, where we're like, oh, this is actually starting to catch on. These movies are starting to do big numbers. Spider-Man 1 at the time did really well. So they try to pump a little bit more money into this. And right off the bat, you see a CGI rat that did not need to be CGI, and CGI smoke and water. And I'm just like, there's just too much happening. I think the opening sequence of the movie is not great at all, in my opinion.
I have a note about that.
Yeah, I figured you would. Yeah.
So when I was watching it, the first note I put down, the first thing that made me go, what? Was during the opening credits,
Yeah.
while they were rolling the like montages in the background, the names would pop up in Braille and then in like English.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you did this for what? Like, what was the point here?
Yeah.
This is not doing anything for your movie. Like,
No. It doesn't give you accessibility points either, because you can't touch this. We can't touch the screen.
That's not how Braille works, right? There was another scene also on the note of Braille where the kid had a book and he was holding it open and he only had one finger running across it. And I've only ever seen blind people use at least two fingers to read.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed when he was older, when it was Ben Affleck, he was reading with two fingers, but the kid wasn't. And I was like, come on, y'all, you can do better than this.
Yeah. I think that Daredevil definitely took the character far more seriously than I expected him to. And I know that Ben Affleck, you know, is a comic book fan. I actually do know that. And I know that he really wanted to do well in this movie. And that will be the probably credit that I'll give the film, is that I think for the most part, there are some elements that I also think that are weird, especially when it comes to the infamous playground scene. Like, he's just too like, yo, hold on, I want to talk to you, girl. Like, he like grabs her at one point. Other than that, I think that he does a pretty solid job in the character, and I feel like people always just shit on him because roughly around this time is also the era of him getting together, I believe, with Jennifer Lopez, which is the period of time where people are shitting on him really hard. So that's why I feel like everyone like, oh, the Daredevil one with Ben Affleck's awful. I don't think that it's awful. I don't think it's good, but I still think that there's still elements in there that I like, and it's specifically for the people that have characters. The only character, in my opinion, that I think is kind of wasted or just didn't even need to be in the movie is Elektra. Even though I love their chemistry together, but there's just...
That breaks my heart because I love Elektra as a character.
Yeah.
But like...
She has like three scenes.
I feel like her only reason for being in this movie is to provide motivation for Daredevil.
Yes.
So the story is a classic like fridging trope. Like, he falls in love with her, something bad happens to her. That's his motivation to change. It's a classic trope, so I can't really rag on them too much for using it, but I could still not be a fan of it.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. Because I want it. Because I love their interaction with each other and their chemistry, and I understand why they were married for for a long period of time together. It was definitely palpable. I particularly love the scene in the rain when they first do it, and he sees her through. I mean, however,
Fucking cheese. Where he goes, I just want to see you. I was like,
can you please just get wet?
cheese ball.
Don't put the umbrella or anything over you. Just let me see your face.
Can you get rained on so
Yeah.
I can perceive your face? Oh my god.
I love it when they
dude.
do it. They do it a second time, and then she puts the umbrella. It's like, you can't see my face. It's all dark out. Which of course then leads to the fight at the end, which I thought was like that was like the cheesiest.
That was a cool callback. Yeah.
It was a cool callback, but it was cheesy as hell. It's just like, this is how you beat the bad guy. But ultimately, my major issues with this movie is that I don't know what this movie's trying to say. Because I don't think it has anything to say.
Not much.
No,
It really didn't have anything to say.
like X-Men and Spider-Man at this point, I actually have I could definitely say like what this movie's trying to say, what this movie's trying to be, and what it's facilitating the story around it. But for this one, I couldn't tell you what the story is about.
I'll tell you that scene between Elektra and her dad where they're yelling at each other in Greek. Mint. So good. That was my favorite scene.
Yes.
And it had nothing to do with the plot of the. Like, you didn't need that in there. It's just Elektra and her dad yelling at each other in Greek. It served nothing. And it was the highlight of this film for me.
I do love her dad because he's played by the actor from The Mummy, and I love The Mummy. So shout out to him. But otherwise, yeah. Not much is added there in terms of who he is. And I think the biggest crime for me is this, like, the beginning of the movie. So the beginning of the movie is set up with like a flashback of how, it's the classic origin story. We're actually seeing it depicted on screen, which was Matt Murdock's father was down and out, and he would be a crony for this crime boss. And then Matt Murdock saw it. In that same day, he gets blinded by radio acid, and now has the ability to basically have like radar sense and heightened abilities, and does all these cool flippy. I don't know how he knows kung fu all of a sudden, because he beats up the kids.
Trained.
He does a crazy backflip in front of the kids at the very beginning of the movie, which, by the way, played by one of the actors from The Sopranos, Anthony Soprano's son.
The kid. Yeah. Oh my god.
Love him. I love him. So I'm glad that I got to see him in this movie again as that age. He's a podcaster now, which is very cool.
Good for him.
He's a
I want
podcaster
to talk about
with
go
his
ahead,
sister from the show. And they have their own. It's called Pajama Pants.
Nice.
It's great. It's so good.
I want to talk about this origin story compared to the Netflix.
So
Daredevil
this is a good
origin
point.
story.
Yeah. So there is an MCU counterpart. What are your feelings on it being compared to the newer edition?
I remember back in, it was probably like 2014, somewhere around that time. Like, Daredevil season 1 had been out for a little bit, and I tried to go and watch this show, right? Oh, it must have been 2015 because I had already gone through lifeguard certification, I think. Anyways,
It's a time and
preschool
place.
for me.
Yeah.
It was the time and place. But I remember trying to watch this show, and the first episode has like the car accident, and he gets like the battery acid in his eyes. And then in the show, his dad's just holding him, not moving, while he has battery acid in his eyes. And like, I was so taken out. My suspension of disbelief was immediately broken because I was like, why is nobody trying to flush out his eyes? Like, why? He's in the middle of like an accident. There's a fire hydrant right there. Like, why is nobody trying to flush out this kid's eyes? And I had the biggest gripe against the show. I couldn't get past that scene for years. And that was it. I was just like, I can't take this. I can't believe that the origin story of this character is simply because not a single person stopped to flush that kid's eyes out. And so when I was watching this movie at the beginning, like he's on the docks or whatever, and there's like the radioactive barrels that get hit by the forklift, it splashes on his face, he gets pinned, they can't move him. There's no like there's the docks, but there's no like running water around. And
It's
so
filthy,
like,
filthy water.
yeah, filthy water, and there was no people around him. And I was like, all right, I could buy this. I could buy that there was nobody around to help him. But when he was in the middle of the fucking car accident with like hundreds of people around, I was like, really? I think this is the only part of the movie that I liked better.
To be honest with you, it's probably the most accurate in terms of like how it happened in the comics from what I remember. Because Daredevil, I mean, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, well, not Daredevil specifically, Daredevil is actually an inspiration to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How it was supposedly the same barrel that blinded Matt Murdock as the barrel that was used to mutate the turtles. So for them to have this bio waste in this area, however, I agree with you. Yeah, there's no real clean water there, but you would assume they have something there for the people that, what if in case biohazard breaks? But also, how is he not head to toe covered in biohazard or whatever? Which, you know, I'll let slide. I did like that they try to put like prosthetic makeup on the side, scarring on the sides, because I don't think they do that for the Charlie Cox version.
I don't remember it.
Okay, origin aside, what do you think in terms of the characterization of the character between both Ben Affleck's version and Charlie Cox?
I have the same issue with Ben Affleck that I have with Charlie Cox, is that they're both seeing actors. They're both sighted. And I can't say, oh, it was 2003, it was a different time. No, they could have done better. They're still not doing better, but they could have. And that's something because especially in my community, in the deaf community, we are such staunch advocates that you cannot have hearing actors play deaf characters. Like it's such a sticking point. And recently, actually, there was the announcing that Millicent Simmons was cast to play Helen Keller in an upcoming movie. And a lot of deaf people were applauding that casting, and I was taken aback. I was like, this is a deafblind character, and you have a deaf-sighted actor playing this role. And I saw a lot of deafblind people being like, we're such staunch advocates for deaf characters to be played by deaf actors. Why wouldn't you do the same for a deaf-blind character? So, because of that background, because of that cultural instinct, whenever I see sighted actors playing blind characters, I get really upset because I know how it feels to see my culture improperly represented, my disability improperly represented. And I just really wish we could get an actually blind Daredevil. And this has nothing against Ben Affleck or Charlie Cox's performances. They're both incredible actors. They do incredible jobs in these roles. It's a great performance of this character, but I can't get past the fact that it's not being played by a blind actor. I wish we could get a blind actor in these roles. But other than that, I thought both representations of this character are pretty solid. I feel like I understand the motivations. I empathize with these characters. I think the acting is really well done for both of them.
Yeah, I was trying to remember back on specifically this one, and we didn't watch the director's cut. I know that one's supposed to be a little bit more violent and has more subplots, but specifically, we're talking about just the theatrical cut here. I remember thinking that at the beginning he actually killed the guy on the train, but he doesn't necessarily kill him. He just doesn't save him. And I was wondering that in comparison to, Charlie Cox, where that's part of his whole story is like, is he gonna be able to take a life? Very similar to like a Batman. This to me, it's funny. I don't think that the Daredevil in the Netflix shows is trying to be Batman. I think it is trying to do its own thing. However, I do find that the Daredevil in Ben Affleck's is in his film is trying to be Batman, like almost 100%. Like when
little ironic with his current
I know, but I feel it's so inspired by not necessarily, Ben Affleck. It's inspired by Batman of that time, which of course is a little after whatchamacallit, George Clooney, but just after oh my God, Val Kilmer's, where it just, to me, just in that era of just like showboatiness, a little bit of camp, because there's that part where he's like, I'm putting on the suit and I'm gonna jump off a building and then I'm gonna land on this and I'm gonna ride this pole. Like, he's like, I'm so rad, which, is such a hilarious early 2000s, I think, mentality.
It's so fun.
It is fun. I will say he's having a little bit more fun than Charlie Cox by far.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was really interesting because, like you said, you get that first scene where the dude falls on the train and he doesn't save him.
Yeah.
I don't think you really call it killing him, but he doesn't help him.
Does not help him.
And he like, people do die because of his actions, right?
Yeah, quite a bit.
And it's not until the kid where he was like, I'm not the bad guy, but he still continues to, people.
Yeah.
And it's not until the very end of this, like, that final fight where he has his I'm not a killer moment. And I think that's really interesting because that's something that the TV show struggles with for so long.
Yeah.
Is the entire time he's like, I'm not a killer. Like, that's not what I do. I'll beat people into a coma for the rest of their life, but I don't kill them.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting to see that moment so much later, and I felt like it was a really interesting difference. I really enjoyed seeing the two different characterizations.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought that at the very least that the way that they approached it was significantly different in different ways. I will say, I do think the action in the movie is dog doo-doo. For the most part, I think a lot of it is just super flashy for no reason. And a lot of the problems come from that very first fight scene where he's just in the bar and he's like, what are you here for? He's like, justice. And then just they play
That's
saliva.
His I'm Batman moment.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm like, okay. And then, yeah, he goes in and just does these weird acrobatic tricks that are just so like wire technique bullshit, and they're not, the way that it's shot does not make sense in my opinion of where it is. It just, here's a vignette of him doing a cool trick, here's another vignette of him doing a cool trick. I don't know, I thought that was sort of like weirdly just, all right, we're gonna do action, but we're not gonna make any goddamn sense. And to me, the only film at this point has done it well is Blade. Still, Blade at this point is still kicking ass, because I believe it's Blade kicking ass in those scenes.
Yeah,
I just don't believe what's happening, because I feel like it's just being put together via editing. And that's my issue. Spider-Man, I mean, he does some fighting, but he never has like a full-on fight until we get to, hopefully, Spider-Man 2. And this is why I was just like, this superhero fighting at this point just does not look cool. And I even say that about the X-Men film. The X-Men film is very close quarters. Like, it's not bombastic like it is in the later films. So, it was interesting for them to try to do something, but I don't know. I just didn't think they succeeded. And then even later, when they're like bouncing on rooftops and they're like, gravity is just not making any goddamn sense.
Does not exist.
Oh my God. The final fight.
Straight up looks, yeah. With the rooftop scenes, it looked like he was like Jessica Jones jumping. That was my first thought. He was just like basically flying with these jumps, and I was just like, all right.
Yeah, I don't. Oh my God, the church though. The church is egregious as hell. I don't know how big that organ is. Can you tell me how? They look like they jumped 2 stories, but he falls 7,000 stories.
Work. Right? It looks like he's like literally like running up 2 stories and then he falls for eternity. And I'm just like, did like a portal in space and time open up? And you're just like, I feel like he was the Loki moment where he was like, I have been falling for 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it looked like. Because I was like, wait, how far are you? And the way that they have it, like, and majority of this movie is sadly
Stretches.
Ben Affleck is standing and there's a CGI background behind him and a lot of stuff that I noticed. And time does not work well for these early 2000 films because the more that HD becomes prevalent, the more you can see the seams. That's why I knew it was a CGI rat at the very beginning of the movie. In 2000, I didn't know it was a CGI rat. Because I was like, ooh, suspension of disbelief. But no, this movie does not. The fight scenes and that they just a little crazy. Except for I think it's still cool, and I put it in our trailer, which is when Ben Affleck runs on the bike and kicks in the face, and they turn into two cartoon characters. Ridiculous. I love it.
All right, I want to talk about Ben Urich.
Okay, talk about Ben Urich.
Because you mentioned really liking him in this, which like I like the actor.
I like the actor.
I don't care about this. I really didn't care about Ben in this film, which was really sad to me because I loved Ben in the TV show.
I almost forgot he existed in the other show because of what happened to him, and it pisses me off still to this day. Yeah.
Like him in the show was one of my favorite things.
Yes.
And what happens to him destroyed me. And I was like, it was just not the same without him. I thought he was such an integral part of that show. And to see like this film, he's just kind of there. Like he provides like the only thing he does is when he's like Kingpin like goes after whole families, so like you might know somebody who could protect Elektra or whatever, and like that's it. Like that's all he contributes besides like witty banter with the fucking Foggy. But I just like I know how much potential this character has.
Yes.
And that's what was so upsetting about it.
I agree. And to me, that's the movie in a whole. Like, I know how much potential all of these characters have, but they are in this movie together and they're not given the time of day to actually shine. And like I said, I love the actor, but I also love that character. And it's funny because, yes, I think earlier I said like, oh, I wish there was more of that character in the MCU or he can come back. It's because I forgot of how they treated him in the first season. It's because that was a trauma moment for me because I did not want that to be real. I did not want that to be real. I want them to rectify it. They still haven't done it. I hope they do. They could absolutely do it, but they choose not to. But yeah, that's why I totally blocked that out of my mind. So when I was like, yeah, I really love this character, and it sucks that in the current timeline in the MCU, he is not available. But yeah, you're absolutely 100% right on that.
I will say the one character that I think has my favorite portrayal of this character in any medium is Fisk.
Oh, yeah.
I loved this Fisk.
Yeah.
I thought he was a really interesting Kingpin. He looked fucking ripped as hell.
Yeah.
But I like, because we've seen Fisk so many times. He's in so many things. He's in the Netflix shows.
Yes.
He's in the like Spider-Man games. He's in like we've
animated
seen
cartoons.
So many iterations of this character. But I just thought the way this actor held himself in this role was just so impactful that I was like, wow, this is my favorite portrayal of him. He has just like, I don't know, something about the way he holds himself was really captivating and gave me that feeling that like every time they try to portray Fisk, he's like very like smooth talking and like can manipulate people easy. And I don't really connect with that until this one.
Yeah, I can agree with you. He just has a sense of, he just feels like power. He just feels like the word power, like just by seeing him, the way he talks to people, the way how he just like, he knows he has full control of majority of everything. I will say he falls apart to me at the very end when he's like, send the guards away. And I'm like, all right, you think, then again, it goes with the character of thinking like too much of himself, which is true. Cause then his hubris is he thinks is like, oh, the blind lawyer. Ha ha ha. Like I'm totally going to destroy you. But then, breaks the glass. All the water shows up. It's a callback to the Elektra moment. And then he whoops his ass. I will say I still prefer the Vincent D'Onofrio, the way that they built him up all the way up until the third season. I just think you have so much more time to spend with that character. But I will say that Michael Clark Duncan's version is definitely always left an impact on me. I love that actor. He sadly passed away many years ago, which sucks because, if we did more multiverse stuff, I would have loved a collection of Kingpins. That'd be pretty funny. But yeah, so he died before I think even the Daredevil show even happened. So there was no kind of comparison there. But ultimately, yeah, I think for the little that he's in the film, even though he's a sort of a presence throughout the whole movie, even at the beginning because you don't see him, but there's something there. I think that he definitely lights up the screen, especially his scenes with Bullseye. That to me is his best scene personally. I definitely, and then the fact that they were kind of setting up like, oh, we're gonna have more adventures with Daredevil. It sucks that that never really came to fruition.
What? Oh, do you want to talk about Wesley at all?
I mean, he is like a nothing character. He was there in this one. He's not as impactful as on the TV show. Wesley is played by an actor who I've seen in 1,000 things, but I know him mostly for the movie The Guest. He plays the father in that film. But yeah, Wesley in this is just sort of like the fact that he was there, and I didn't notice that when I was a kid and didn't even know that was aware of the character, honestly, until the Netflix shows and see him more fleshed out, in my opinion, even though he has an early death as well. The fact that he's there at all, I think is really cool. But otherwise, I think everything pretty much fills in. There are some cameos in the film. One cameo specifically I want to point out is the Mortician is played by Kevin Smith, who is the actor, of course, from Jay and Silent Bob, who is wrote series of Daredevil comics. So that's why he's primarily in the film, because he actually in this era wrote the issues between this and a section with Bullseye. So that's primarily why he's in here. There are many name drops in this film, but that's going to be part of our trivia section that I'm going to bring up, and I'm going to see if you can tell me at least 3 of them.
I don't think I can, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'll try to name them all there as well. There's quite a few of them. Is there anything else you think you want to say about Daredevil before we move on to other classes?
Yeah, I just want to talk about Foggy, and then we haven't talked about Bullseye at all, and I know we both have a lot of thoughts about Bullseye. Okay. Foggy was great. It was happy. That made me laugh. He does make a death joke that I was like, not a fan of that. Yeah, but other than that, he was great. But
what do you think of him constantly lying?
Oh boy. I think it's funny. I can't remember if they established the fact that he knows if people are lying to him or not in this.
He says it.
I get the feeling. Yeah. Okay, he can feel that people are lying. So I love that Foggy's just constantly lying to him, and Matt knows, and Foggy knows, and he just keeps doing it. Yeah. I think that's like fun, like character building banter. Like you get the mustard moment, and then later when they're back in that, and he like triple checks his coffee.
Yes.
The fucking swish moment, so good.
Yeah. Swish.
I thought that was really fun. I love having 2 characters that are best friends, and one's just constantly lying to the other, and both of them know it. That's just so fun for me. Like,
let's be honest. He's holding that law firm together because Matt Murdock can't get his shit together in this film 100%. He's literally constantly late for work. He's chasing women into the street, into playgrounds, which is weird. So yeah, if that place is coming to float, it's because he has something to do with it. And so when they had the scene with Michael Clark Duncan's character, Wilson Fisk, and they're basically like he's trying to like position him a job, and then Matt Murdock's like, no, we only help people that are innocent, and I thought that was pretty funny, specifically.
One of my one of the things that kind of grinds my gears about the show is that Foggy's kind of portrayed as the person who can't really do anything. Like he's kind of shown as a little bit incompetent, which is ridiculous because he's the one holding everything together
Yes.
by sheer willpower. And so it was fun to see him portrayed a little bit more competently.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
he's the only reason shit's getting done, and this film acknowledged that.
Yeah, you definitely could sense that like he could handle this by himself. When I think of the Netflix shows, there's a lot of times where Foggy's constantly like relying on Matt to be there or to do things with him. I know that Foggy eventually like goes on his own and does pretty successful on his own, but I think that was maybe a character.
He's at Hogarth's firm.
That's right. I think that was probably like a character building thing for him, honestly, of just like being able to like work without him, and therefore he does. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's pretty much how that character runs. Which, you know, compared to this Bullseye versus our Bullseye in the MCU, what are some of your things you like and things you don't like in comparison?
I loved Bullseye. Like, I know the primary, like I guess he's more secondary antagonist, but I know the antagonist is not supposed to be your favorite character, but he was just so fun.
I was rooting for him.
I was rooting for him the whole time, and then he's on this plane, and this old lady is being insanely racist.
Twice?
Casually dropping
Him and the person that he
slurs.
killed in the first part, too, was also being racist. He called him a damn Irishman, and then he just, like, kills him.
And so he's sitting on this plane, this old lady's being fucking awful, driving him insane, and he fucking just flicks the peanut and fucking kills her. And you know what? She deserved it. She deserved every bit of it. I was like, you know what? I respect you. She got what she deserved. So I was rooting for Bullseye.
No, for
then,
sure.
And then was it the like mid-credit scene where he's
Oh,
like,
so you saw it?
the
Okay, you saw it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is the
And
first
he, like,
mid-credit
flicks
scene we
the
got in the
flag.
film, right? This is the first mid-credits? Yeah.
This is the first any type of scene after the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
And so that was really exciting to me. I was like, oh my gosh, we're finally like starting to see that. But I love this Bullseye so much.
Bullseye. I love it. I love it as well. The person that he killed, of course, her name was Pat Crawford Brown. She is primarily known from the movie The Rocketeer, but I know her. She's a character on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and she just says the craziest shit, and it's so funny. It's like, I was there during the Holocaust, and I made blankets. So ridiculous. Really ridiculous things she says. But I can't deny that I really love Colin Farrell in this film as much as and this is me not knowing very much about the Daredevil in the comic books, other than I know that he's menacing and he kills Elektra in the comics. That's all I know. That is an actual thing from the comics. I will say that I do really like the story arc in the third season that leads to the character that ultimately becomes Bullseye. And it's sort of a misdirect in that season too that I also enjoyed. So I think I prefer that depiction, obviously, of the character more, just because I felt like as a part of the story, I thought it was more realistic. But man, oh man, I can't deny that I really, really love this version. Even as goofy with him having the tattoos like thing on his head, like it's so ridiculous. But I can't help but love his swagger and that stupid jacket. And
I loved that jacket.
It's so
Let me
ridiculous.
tell you. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's funny. I forgot that Bullseye was originally a Daredevil comic character because I know him predominantly from Hawkeye comics.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
He shows up in quite a few Hawkeye comics. And so I think most notably was Hawkeye and Mockingbird, which is with Bobby, who I love ever since S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, Bob and Hunter were my favorite characters on S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And I was heartbroken when they left. because they were gonna do a show with them, and
Yeah, I
then they
remember that.
didn't, and it just breaks my heart every time I think about it. But the point, there's the comic Hawkeye and Mockingbird, and it's Clint and Bobby, and Bullseye's in that, and very prominent in that, and so that's my first thought when I think of Bullseye.
No, for sure. And so to see him in this film at least be a counterpart to, I think that the movie is just way overstuffed with all the characters, like having the Kingpin, having Bullseye, but then also having Electro, who is also a foil to Daredevil in this film. Like, I think that this could have been a good setup for multiple movies, but they were just too shy, and so they had to like throw it all in here. And that's why I'll even circle it right back to the beginning talk of like, what is this movie for? What is this movie even about? Or like it really is just
What is it trying to say?
What is it trying to say?
There's nothing there.
There's just nothing there. It's just a movie that's like, hey, we have characters too, that we can make movies of, and
We have characters.
yeah, we have characters. They're sort of like the 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins. It's just sort of like, we have characters too. You know, we have the X-Men and we have this, and then later we're going to show you the Fantastic Four, and they just don't still have a basis of like what makes these characters interesting or compelling. And I feel that at the end of the day, that you really got to have that to make your characters interesting or compelling. So
I will say I was not impressed by most of the look of this movie.
sure.
Like overall, it was fine, but the one scene that I went, oh, that's actually a pretty awesome shot, was after the car crashes into the newspaper truck and
Yeah.
it's just like the newspapers all over the ground. That shot was incredible. But other than that, like it looked fine. Like I don't know what else to say.
I will point this out, and I know that people had a problem at the time with the costumes, and they always do. No matter when there's a live action version, there's always someone nitpicking. I actually really like his costume, and to the point where I'm like, I could see people still cosplaying that today. I love the eyes. I love the way that it like folds on his face. I honestly have a reverence for the costume, as much as it's like a biker outfit in a lot of ways. But yeah,
I lied. There's another scene that I thought was really cool. It's in the train station where Urich flicks the cigarette and it lights up the Daredevil logo. That was great. But those were the only two scenes that like I remembered because they were cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm like, why is he doing that? It doesn't matter. I'm not even gonna think about it. I'm not even thinking about it. It's like, oh, he's a huge fan of The Crow. That's why he did it.
For the dramatics, Mario.
I guess.
The dramatics.
I guess. But yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything about the movie. I guess the question is, does this movie hold up? Is it still worth watching today? I'm gonna let you go first. No, right off the bat, no.
It does not hold up. I'm glad I watched this because we're doing this show and it's fun to talk with you about movies.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting if you're looking at it from analyzing Marvel's representation in films. Sure. Would I recommend this for casual enjoyment? Absolutely not. Unless you have a really good reason to watch this movie, which doing the show gives me a really good reason. So I'm not mad that I watched it. I'm glad that I watched it and experienced this once. I will never go back to it. I would not recommend anybody to watch it.
I will say I have been slowly buying some of these movies that have them in 4K, and I don't know if that's a mistake that I'm making or a commitment. I bought the Thomas Jane Punisher film on 4K for some reason, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
If it makes you happy,
yeah,
good for you.
For sure. I also don't think this movie holds up. And was it a waste of my time? I mean, I could have been doing something else, but at the end of the day, I at least got to see the evolution of where the mistakes are and then where you can learn from, because this movie is also produced by none other than Kevin Feige. So he had some of a hand in the way of this movie being developed. And I'm wondering if all the good decisions were Kevin Feige's. But ultimately,
only the good decisions were crediting to Kevin Feige.
exactly. Which I know that he may or not have the most influence on the TV show version, but he's got to be somewhere in there. Either way, he started the direction in which I think that all of the Marvel characters are finally going into a solid point. Even if you don't like certain movies like Dark World or whatever, I still think that they're in a solid direction.
I enjoyed Dark World.
I know. It's higher on the list than most people. But yeah, I say that this is probably the first one where I'm like, you can totally skip this one, and totally be okay for it. Now I say that, but we also have a movie later that we have to be reviewing called Elektra. I've never seen it, so I'm actually also very curious about it.
I'm sure you have to see this one to watch that one.
I assume so. Yeah.
When we get to that, if we really like Elektra, maybe we'll say, come back, watch this one first. But who knows?
True.
That's a later problem.
Oh boy. No, for sure. Did you have any other fun notes? I know that you wrote mostly quotes. Did you have any other fun notes you want to?
Yeah, I think the rest of my notes were just quotes. And I have one last note, and it's in the final battle where he kicks out his knees.
Oof.
And I said I felt that in my soul.
Yeah.
My knees are messed up from years of sports and dance and et cetera, and so I have really bad knees. And so when I saw him kick out his knees like that, I just cringed. I felt bad for his knees in that moment.
No, for sure. Okay, well, I think that concludes our Stan Lee seminar of us talking about the film. I think we're going to go ahead and move on straight to drama class. We have some of the best quotes from this film because this movie has a bunch of them, and I'm very, very excited to get through it. So first up, we'll do a really quick one. Let's do the top one. Do you want to be Elektra or Matt? You could be either or.
I want to be Matt.
All right, you can be Matt. All right, whenever you're ready.
You're holding back.
Yes.
Don't. That, of course, is in the fucking...
Yeah, that is in
the playground.
Famous playground scene, which is lauded as a terrible scene along with Catwoman. Only because it's just so dorky and weird, and they smile a lot, and it's just out of place, and I love it. It's great. I don't care. I'm going to go ahead. I'll say the top bullseye line here. I missed. I also want to do this with Scottish action, but I wasn't going to do it. I missed. I never miss.
Scottish? I thought he was Irish.
Is he Irish? I'm sorry. My bad. I'm sorry. Bullseye, don't kill me.
People are going to roast you for that.
You're going to roast me. Bullseye will kill me, literally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Another iconic Bullseye moment is necessary? No. It was fun.
Yeah. Love it.
This next one, I was pulled from my notes, and it's the police officers outside the church while Bullseye and Daredevil are running up the organ, and the like, I don't know if he's like a sergeant, lieutenant, whatever, but he goes, "Keep them in your sights."
Which one?
Both of them.
Ridiculous. Oh my god. Hold on. Let's see here. We have quite a few here.
Yeah. I'll highlight some of my favorites.
Yeah, highlight the ones you want to do, and then
I put a lot in here.
Here, I'll go ahead. I'll do the Matt one. I'm trying to remember. Was this the last line of the movie?
It's the opening. It's like in the middle of the final monologue. Yeah.
Got it. It's like Matt just goes, "With Elektra's help, I saved myself instead." Of course.
So cheesy.
Bullseye, of course, says, "I want a bloody costume or a fucking costume, depending on which version you've seen." Okay. Do you want to
That
do?
line.
Do you want to do? Okay. Do you want to do the top? You want to do Matt or you want to do Foggy?
I'll be Foggy.
Okay. Her name's Electra Nachos.
She sounds like a Mexican appetizer.
Go ahead.
The next Foggy line. Do you or do you not concede that there are alligators in the sewers? Please answer the question.
I love that he kept going on and off about the damn alligators.
It's such a great
That was fun.
running joke.
And that, and then you got Ben Urich like, it's just a myth. And then he just so defeated.
You want to do this Matt line?
Yeah, I'll do it. Mr. Quesada, for your sake, I hope justice is found here today before justice finds you. Which was great.
So good.
Love it. Love that actor too, of course. Oh god, that bullseye line is really good too.
This whole movie is just
it's just bangers on bangers.
bangers.
Hold on, let's circle back to the Electra line. I'll do Electra here.
Yeah.
You sure you're blind?
Sure you don't want to tell me your name? Okay.
It's palpable. It's sexy. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll go back to bullseye here. Uses organ uses organ pipes on Daredevil, which was the smartest thing to do, of course. Man without fear. Looks like I found something you're afraid of. Let's bring on the pain. Let's bring on the noise. Yes. So good.
So good.
100%. Because I think they're listening to House of Pain when he's introduced, which is even perfect. I love it.
All of the bullseye lines are impeccable. Like, if I give this movie one compliment, it's that all of Bullseye's lines are perfect. There's not a single one that I didn't like.
And I can't contribute it to the script or to Colin Farrell. It's one or the other.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who elevated who? That's what I want to know. Let's go ahead. Let's do this highlighted one that you have here. Of course.
Yeah, can I be Father Everett, please?
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
I'm going to do it's like this is the part where I don't remember if this is one of the normal ones or the one at the end, but we'll just go. I'll just do it.
I'm pretty sure this is him in the pews.
In the pews? Okay. This is my confession, Father.
God's mercy is infinite. All you gotta do is ask.
Everything I had has been taken from me. Now I'm supposed to ask for mercy? I don't ask for mercy. People ask me.
Oh, is that a fact? The sass. Father Everett. Yes.
Love it. Love it. And then let's do the last one. I want to be Kingpin for this one.
It's the... Oh, yes. Okay. You killed the only two people I've ever loved. Why?
Business. That's all I've ever is. Business. I was working for Fallon at the time. Your father was supposed to throw a fight, and your girl was in the wrong family at the wrong time. It's all business. And you've been in my business for too long. That's my Michael Clark Duncan impression.
Oh, God.
Love it. Oh, shout out to the writer and to everyone performing these lines, making them as iconic as they are. Of course, now that concludes drama class. We're going to go over to music room, where, of course, we talk about some of the superhero bangers of the time of the original soundtrack. Does it hold up along with the film? And are they still bangers today? And by God, we have another one, ladies and gentlemen. We have one of the best bangers in superhero history, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yes, specifically this one, but every single song
I agree.
in this entire movie was straight bangers.
Yes.
The whole time, I was constantly shocked. I was like, oh my God, they got the rights to that? Oh my God.
Yes, absolutely. Some standouts there, obviously. I think, there's a House of Pain song in the Irish pub, or the pub at least, when Bullseye's playing. But specifically, the one that is the song that introduces the Kingpin, which is the Pharrell Nerd song. And I absolutely was so happy to hear. I was like, down. And I was like, yes! I remember this song. Brings me back to a time and place that I was very, very happy about. But then, of course, there's the very scene where she's like, I have to train. I have to have these sandbags come and I have to paint with a lipstick a Daredevil out of one of the sandbags. And of course, it is Evanescence, Bring Me to Life, which as a seminal
We didn't
kid.
talk about how she was holding those weapons in that training montage was so improper. It looked so silly, but the music slaps.
Yes, it captured the tone, obviously, of the music video in some aspects, this song is awesome. This is my first introduction to this band, and I love the rap verse that's also within it with the guy, and her voice, to me, is still fantastic and transcendent, and I still listen to the song to this day. It is by far one of those top tier bangers, along with Hero from Chad Kroeger. And of course, this will go into, in my opinion, superhero Hall of Fame music that I will put in for you and made the trailers even better. So I think that is, that concludes Music Room right there.
This film was the one I was most excited to go to your Spotify playlist for. I'm like, I can't wait for this.
Yes, we'll be at. Oh, and again,
added.
you're absolutely correct. We're going to be adding some of these songs to our Spotify playlist, so that way you can also enjoy them and listen along as we go through it. We're working on still doing the Apple one. I still have to get that set up, but otherwise, right now it is on Spotify. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy over the notes here, so that way Sly can see them, because it is now time for quiz time. Pop quiz. Let's go.
I'm scared. I was not paying attention very well to any of this movie.
That's perfect. That is perfect. So the first one is actually the one that I wanted to go with you, and I wonder if you noticed it. There is a quick cameo of a character from the comics that is played by a famed actress from Grey's Anatomy. Which character is it? Is it Natasha Romanoff? 2, Karen Page. 3, Jennifer Walters, who's a lawyer. 4, Sue Storm. Did you actually notice this actress?
I did not. Oh my gosh, I love Grey's Anatomy.
I know, that's why I wanted to. She's in it for like 3 seconds and then she goes away. I think she has like maybe a line.
My gut instinct says it was Karen Page. I don't remember at all seeing any Grace actors in this, but that's my first thought, so I'm sticking to it.
Okay. The answer is, in fact, Karen Page. Karen Page is in this movie. Karen Page is in this movie. She is actually the receptionist in their office. That is played by Ellen Pompeo, aka Grey herself.
Oh
That is her.
I love that.
Yes, if you go to the credits. Yeah.
That's so good.
That's why I was like, this is gonna be a great question. Yeah, she's in the credits right there, Ellen Pompeo as Karen Page. So secret character. So yeah, Karen Page is in the film. Her depiction, whatever. We'll move on. But yes, that includes the first question. The second question is, and this is actually a twofer. 2 of these answers are real. So you get whoever you choose, they're both right. All right.
I know what I want my answer to be, but I'm pretty sure it's wrong.
I sort of based it on someone's dating history. Who almost played Elektra in the film in place of Jennifer Gardner? Was it A, Jennifer Lopez, B, Natalie Portman, C, Selma Hayek, and D, Jessica Alba?
I'm sure it was probably Natalie Portman. Just time frame wise, it feels like she would have fit there. I don't know who the other one is, but I wish it was Selma Hayek. I love Selma Hayek. Of course, just saw her in Eternals. Excellent.
Yes, excellent.
I would have loved to see her here.
No, for sure. I would have loved to have seen it too. I thought that would have been great. Of course, yes, Selma Hayek is not the answer. Natalie Portman is one of the answers. Can you take a guess on who the other one is? Do you know who Jessica Alba is?
I know that's a name. That's a famous person. If I saw a picture of her or ran into her on the street, I would not be able to name her.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll go ahead and give this to you. Yeah, it was Jessica Alba. Jessica Alba was the other one.
Right.
She was sort of up and coming at this point. Jessica Alba, pretty much known for her Fox show that she had, was called Dark Angel. And she did a movie called Honey, and kind of has fallen sort of behind the scenes. But man, oh man, did I have a huge crush on Jessica Alba in the early 2000s. So this totally made sense. I put Jennifer Lopez in there because I'm petty like that. Of course, the question that keeps coming back, does Stan Lee make a cameo, and where is he?
Yes, he did. I was so excited when I saw him. I didn't even have to think about it. You're just walking down the street with Matt. A bus comes out of nowhere. He uses a stick to stop, and I went, "Oh my God, that's Stan Lee!"
Yes, Stan Lee, of course, is the man on the curb with no lines still. So definitely they limited everything for Stan Lee.
One of the most prominent so far, where you like actually got you sat on his face for a
Yes,
couple seconds.
that is true.
I remember the one in Spider-Man. It was like he was like in the background helping a girl, but it was really quick that I
Really
had to
quick.
like go back and like look for. But yeah, no, this was the first one that I like the first watch through. I instantly spotted and was like, "Oh my gosh, Stan Lee!"
I love it.
R.I.P.
It's the Where's Waldo of the show, which I love. Is Stan Lee in this movie? So fantastic. Okay, you are 3 for 3. So we're gonna go on, and this is gonna be the one
Fail
where
this one.
I wonder if you were paying attention to the names being dropped in this movie, because they were constantly dropping them, and I was like, oh, there
I
are.
was not.
Can you name 3 name drops in the film that are clear references to people who've wrote for Daredevil in the past? There's several in this film, and I'll name them all once you can if you could give me 3 of them, if you can remember.
I'm trying to think about.
To be fair to you,
who
you
I've
watched this movie a
yeah.
couple weeks ago, right? Because we were delayed on. Is that correct? Or did you
Yeah.
watch it recently?
Like a week or so ago.
Week or so ago, so time has passed, so this is probably a little bit tougher. But I, as you know, someone who's read comics for a while, instantly recognize the names. We actually said the
also,
names in drama class. I'll cheat there. We said one of the names.
Yeah, no, the only one that I could really think of, I was like, I think Quesada
That is one.
might be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I haven't read much Daredevil comics.
Sure.
The only Daredevil comics I've read are the ones that introduce Echo.
Got
and
it.
So I'm like trying to like rack my brain.
Yeah, a lot of the
Who
names would
wrote
be
those?
probably before it, because this would be before 2003.
And I think no, I don't know. There's a run of Daredevil that I think it was like 98 or something, but in the like 50s you get a beautiful arc with Echo.
Sure.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, oh gosh, I was not paying attention to names at all.
All right, I'm gonna list them all out. So there's a scene where I believe the father is being told to throw the fight, and the promoter names a bunch of
the dude
names.
he's following.
Yeah, and then the guy was like, this guy, you think you really won that fair and square, blah, blah, blah. So he says, Brian Michael Bendis' name says Bendis, Miller. He says Mr. Lee, which is Stan Lee. Kirby is the name of the matrician, who's Jack Kirby. And then, of course, I believe there's more. Quesada, which, of course, is Jose Quesada. John Romita is one of the artists as well. He's also a famous artist, and his son, John Romita Jr., which is also known for a lot of art that you've probably read recently. So yeah, there's so many classic comic names that are like rapid fire in the beginning that I was just like, oh, I can hear and see all of those names. So I thought that was fun to have them sort of have a little cameo in there. So very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that they got to give a shout out to
Yeah.
those people who created this character so deeply.
And has given him so many well-defined arcs like Frank Miller and stuff like that. It definitely was cool to see their names referenced. There's and I don't want to confirm this because I'm not sure if it's true, but there's a part where someone gets killed, Bullseye kills someone and he steals his motorcycle. He gets like a thing in his head. I want to say that's Frank Miller, but I'm not confirmed. I'll probably look that up after the show. If anything, let me know in the comments, because we're wrapping up. Class is pretty much in session. We're going to go to homeroom now. Is there any Any final thoughts on this film that you want to bring up
I
before we
wanted
close it out?
to fact check myself. It is, in fact, the 1998 run of Daredevil that
Nice.
I read. And it ran from 98 to 2011, apparently. And I'm just wanting to see. It's, Kevin Smith, Joe Quesada. Yeah, that's a fun one. If you want to see Echo specifically, she's in like around like 8 to 11, I think, issues, and then later in the like 50s.
Gotcha.
But yeah, fun stuff.
Very fun stuff. And I also want to fact check myself. Yes, I'm correct. That is Frank Miller. He's the one that gets a pencil through the head and gets his motorcycle stolen.
Nice.
So he is responsible for all that scene. So that is awesome. Okay. Then I think that pretty much sends us back to homeroom where we're going to close up the show. Is there any final thoughts that you want to talk about for Daredevil? Any additional things you want to leave behind?
Yeah, when I first finished watching this movie, I was so conflicted because at the same time, it was really like enjoyable, like with the witty banter, the like fun quips, like the story. Like there wasn't much there, but it was a story. But the rampant ableism and racist comments and just like all of these things that don't hold up to what we expect from our media today made it hard for me to digest this as an enjoyable movie. And I think that's one of the things where, like, I mean, I was very young when this movie comes out. I'll just say that. I wouldn't have been watching this movie anyways. But watching it in a different perspective, I could see how people had a lot of fun with this movie. But that just wasn't the reality for how I watched it. And that's a little disappointing because I had so much potential, like you said. I could have seen this being like a trilogy. And I'm really excited to see what Elektra's like. I'm not expecting much from the Elektra movie, but watching this, seeing some of these people come back is something that I'm really interested in. So, yeah. I don't know. I think that's all my thoughts. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. I think my only thoughts is, like you said, if this was a series of movies and they were more well developed, I think I would be still interested into this world. Ultimately, it does suck and suffer for what it does to be so overstuffed in this film. I wanted to see the return of Bullseye. I would love to have seen what did Wilson Fisk have in store of Matt Murdock if they took the film a little less of this sort of like early 2000s. But otherwise, yeah, I think it has a time and place, but I don't think that it holds up to the standards of today. And that's something that I feel like you necessarily need to return to, like I think of the other films that we've talked about. So overall, yeah, I would say this is a movie that you can probably take a pass on. But if you watched it for the show, again, thank you everyone for watching. And for we finally launched. By the time this episode goes out, it's been a couple weeks, but we've launched. And thank you so much for the reception.
Yeah, this is our first recording since actually launching. So
Yes.
we've all of a stock, but I was so blown away by the response. So I just want to say thank you all for watching this, supporting us. The show is so fun to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be going on this journey as we continue through the multiverse of the MCU and have a good old time. So, Sly, where can people find you on the net?
You can find me pretty much anywhere on socials at SlyClanMC. You can find me over at Point in Progress, where I do this show, of course, the Point in Progress podcast, and I will be.
You can finally say Stark
either
Radio because this will definitely be out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was just trying to think. I was doing the math in my head for 15 and 15. It's either close to done or already done. So go check out season 1 of 15 and 15 on Point in Progress. By the time this comes out, absolutely Stark Radio will be happening. That should be Thursdays, except for I think the first one's Thanksgiving. We might do Fridays. With Liz, Marissa, and Alexis, and myself, of course, talking all about Hawkeye. It's going to be a blast. I'm so excited. So definitely check out Stark Radio on Twitch or YouTube, or check us all out on TikTok for those episodes. I can't wait for that. Yeah, those are all the things I'm doing currently.
Awesome. Fantastic. And of course, you can find me here at Point in Progress, where we do our podcast every Friday. Holiday schedule might be up in the air depending on what we decide to do, because a lot of the holidays are so happening landing on Fridays. But we'll go from there. We'll see if they do some special one-offs or something else, because we also got to talk about Game of the Year. We have to talk about a bunch of different things that we want to do. So I think we should definitely gather and talk about that. So in the meantime, but still, stay tuned to this channel at youtube.com/pointinprogress. You can also find me at Twitter at NightMuteCity, where you'll see all my musings, especially hearing me share fan fiction about Eternals, because I've been having a blast sharing that this weekend. Also, watch our extra credit episode, which what we did last week for or whenever this comes out for
It'll
Eternals.
be like 3 weeks ago, but by the time this
Yeah,
comes
that's
out.
true.
But
That is
hopefully everybody's seen Eternals by now, so go watch it. The first little bit is no spoilers, and then the rest we dive into full spoilers.
Yes.
That was so fun. It was a lot of me ranting and raving about this movie, so please go check that out and let us know your thoughts about Eternals. Wow, what a movie.
What a movie. What a movie. And with that, I want to thank everyone for watching. And your homework for next week, of course, is I actually don't know. Let me look real quick.
Hold on, let's riff for a second.
Yeah, I believe, because I have the calendar set up. And I've eventually, what I would love to do.
I'm opening it right now, and it is X2.
Oh, yes. Okay, cool. We get to watch more X-Men. So we are back in the Bryan Singer X-Men universe, and moving on to the sequel and see how that does. So basically, until next time, class is dismissed.
He can vanish before you realize he's there. And he's the last person you'd ever expect.
Police suspected the vigilante Daredevil was the one to bring the criminals to justice.
I don't know why you read that trash.
You want the truth?
Tell me.
She's hideous.
Excuse me. I just wanted to get your name. Does every guy have to go through all this to find out your name?
You should try asking for my number.
I've been following that piece you wrote about the Kingpin.
How do you kill a man without fear?
Let the bodies hit them.
Give me bullseye.
The devil's mine.
I hope justice is found here before justice finds you.
How can you be a skeptic?
There's no eyewitness. I mean, Bigfoot has eyewitnesses.
Please.